Have you ever felt like your hopes and dreams were close, but you were missing the key to making them come true? In our lives, we've all felt longing and desire, but sometimes we don't know how to turn our thoughts into deeds. You might not know this, but you have an amazing force inside you that, when woken up and used artistically, can make your dreams come true. Today, I want you to explore a world where the only limit is your imagination. This is the place where your imagination will lead you to your greatest and most ambitious goals. This is an interesting journey that will help you find the power that lives inside all of us and can change your life in amazing ways. In these pages, you'll be taken on an exciting trip to find out more about yourself and make your greatest dreams come true. You will learn to question the limits you put on yourself, get past the things that have been holding you back, and accept a new way of thinking and being. Come on this journey with me that will change your life. We'll find out the secrets that will let you use your imagination in amazing ways. This exploration will show you that you have the power to make your dreams come true, no matter how big or out of reach they may seem. Part 1. The infinite value of yourself. The point of these lessons is to change the way you think and feel as a person. From a psychic point of view, people are made up of a huge range of different levels of awareness, and where you fall on this scale determines who you are. Realities are made up of consciousness, and your level of psychological awareness determines how your life works. The wise people of ancient times knew this deep fact, but many teachers today still don't fully understand it. There is one basic thing that makes up the world. Scientists call it energy, while religious texts call it awareness. Some people think that the universe came from water, but if that were true, everything in it would be different kinds of water. But if we think that the base is energy or mind, then it can manifest in different ways, like iron, steel, wood, and so on. When man sees different shapes, he thinks of a huge number of things, but what he sees is just a change in the way awareness is arranged. Everything, according to Ephesians, is manifested by light once it is accepted. The word light in this passage refers to awareness or understanding. What makes one person rich and another poor is the state of consciousness that person accepts. The poor man acknowledges being poor by saying, "I am poor," and the rich man acknowledges being rich by saying, "I am rich." Whatever you, as an individual, affirm to be good, bad, or irrelevant, right or wrong, must manifest in your world, because by affirming the state, you have consented to its existence. There is only one cause, and that is awareness. Your consciousness is where your world reflect and echo the state you are in at the moment. Now, everything you know and believe to be true is what makes up your state. So, if you want to change your world, you first have to decide what you are willing to accept as true. To get a clear picture of who you are, you should first carefully watch how you automatically respond to something. This is because your response shows what your state is, and you can change your level or state of being without leaving your chair and rebuild your world. One way to do this is to watch how you respond to life without judging yourself. If you don't like the way things are going in your life, figure out why they're going that way. Accept that the situations are only making what you know into an object. Then shift your awareness and your world will change. You are stuck at a certain level of awareness if you respond to what is being objectified. But if you don't do anything, the thread breaks. Stop being aware of something bad, because every bad thought drags you deeper into mental hell. Instead, connect with the beauty, love, and Christ within you, and you will reach the highest level of your own being. You will also change the things that happen in your life. Your mental state draws life to you like a magnet. When steel is not magnetic, it is just a spinning mass of electrons. But when the electrons line up in one direction, the steel becomes magnetic. When you want to make steel magnetic, you don't have to add anything to it or take anything away. You should follow the same rule. By shifting your thoughts around and directing them only in one direction, the direction of what you want, you can change your world. Pay attention to how you react to things in your life, because any change in your state of mind that you can pick up on by looking at yourself will have an effect on how you respond to other things. You need to learn how to be quiet when you are faced with things you find unpleasant and unacceptable. This will help you awaken the active being inside you. And when you get to know your true self, you'll see that the things you criticize about other people are actually things you have. Then you'll know how to forgive others, because when you forgive yourself, they forgive you. Anything that is manifested is light, not just some things. A thought starts to manifest as soon as you agree with it. It couldn't exist unless you agreed to it being expressed, which means you were aware of it. The universe doesn't have a reason for moving, it just does. It moves to make the plans of people's minds manifest. This message is meant to wake you up to your light, and the first step to waking is to look at yourself. You will see your world through the eyes of your self-pity and judgment if you secretly enjoy life in that state. Your manifested world will change, though, if you clear your mind and live in the blissful state of love and peace. If you look at yourself without any judgment for 5 minutes today, you will be shocked at how naive you are. It's a terrible shock right now, but all shocks will lead to awareness. More and more light comes into life, making it more and more holy. You learn more about who you really are. There is only one cause for everything that happens in life, and you can only find it by watching yourself. If you believe in a secondary cause, you are the most cruel person in the world. Remember that there is only one material, one cause, and let go of that tyrant, and change what you are aware of right away. To find yourself, you have to pay attention to how you respond to things in your life. Always keep in mind that the things you face will stay the same as long as you act the way you do. Because everything you acknowledge is manifested by your consciousness, and everything you manifest is your consciousness. Let's get out of the mud and out of the bottom of the world. Everything you agree to is part of your soul. If you lose your soul on one level, you will find it somewhere else, but it will be described differently. Always look at yourself without judging, because when you do, you automatically defend your actions and connect yourself to what you see. Everything is personal. Words like collective security and collective starvation are also personal. Do not stand on the shoulders of others. Learn to stand on your own. You need to set yourself free, and the only way to do that is to wake up the Christ that is sleeping inside you. You will get a lot out of thinking good thoughts based on good ideas. Your awareness will grow, and you will change the world. Take the time to remember who you are every day, to give yourself your daily bread. Don't be jealous of someone else's good luck. Just take it for yourself. Change who you are by refreshing your mind and the thoughts that are already there. Because you can't change the way you think until you change the ideas that make you think. Part 2. Don't use the name for nothing. Being is your level of awareness, and everything that happens to you is caused by it, because how you react to things determines what you are. Any changes you want to see in the outside world must come from inside you. The 7th chapter of Mark says, "Listen and understand. It is not something outside of a person that makes them dirty, but what comes out of their mind. Those who have ears should listen. Now that thoughts are things, they manifest as actions when you connect with them. Thoughts that aren't loving make you dirty. Awaken and choose only the thoughts that will help your wish come true. You must always be aware of where you live, because where you are mentally is what you are. You are always projecting the state you are in onto other people. Your state of mind shows you your state, The Upanishads, a type of Vedic literature that deals with big psychological issues, say that when the mind imagines itself in a state, it takes on the effects of that state. Because it doesn't think of itself in the state, it is free from the effects of it. Your soul is what you feel inside. You have entered a state by picturing yourself in the setting where your prayer was answered. Your soul has taken on the effects of that state. You can avoid the pleasant effects of the state if you don't go there. It will manifest in your world if you accept a thought as true and connect with it. Thoughts can hurt you, but they can't hurt you if you don't accept them and connect with them through your feelings. You need to pick and choose what you think about and learn not to connect with bad thoughts. The Book of Kings says that people who went into the temple brought a live thing with them, like an ox or a cow. They were burned as sacrifices. These burnt gifts are your body of pain. They are the animals you have to offer. They are called complaints. You have no right to take a grudge with you, no matter what it is, and you can't rise in awareness until all of your grudges are killed on the altar. You can only find the holy water after giving them up. This isn't church holy water, it's a representation of the 12 parts of the mind. The holy water bowl is put on the backs of the oxen when your mind is free of all its clutter and grudges. Then your trained mind will serve you instead of the oxen. The mind is like a bull when it's wild, and it needs to be calmed, washed with holy water, and dressed in soft clothes. When you go into the Holy of Holies by yourself and take a bath in its water, it clears your mind of all small thoughts. Start thinking only good things right now. Then nothing that comes out of your mouth or mind will ever be bad. Being endless is what I am means. Tell them I am sent me to you. There is only I am awareness in the world, and it's what keeps you alive. When you say I'm sick, you really are sick. When you say I'm safe, you really am safe. If you think you are in a certain state, you must expect the effects of that state of mind. A state of mind gives everything life, and you can't do anything without it, since you can only bring back the place from which you recognize where you are in your mind is where you really are. So, if you find yourself feeling bad about yourself, stop and start being happy. You will connect with the state of self-pity and get over it if you don't. Say, I am strong when you are weak, not when you are strong. Declare, I am strong whenever you feel weak. If you keep saying it, it will become a fact. No one should ever use the Lord's name in a silly way, because it means I am the Holy One. He already knows that he is the kind of person he wants to be. He never sins and always runs toward the name, because to sin is to fall short of his goal, and to be good is to reach it. He knows my name, so I will put him on high. Think about being the person you want to be, and you will be saved from where you are now. When you run righteously toward the state you want, your individual hunger can and will be filled. This is done by feeling. When you feel happy, you will be aware of being happy. When you feel married, you will be aware of being married. You have to feel what you want before you can be aware that you have it. Instead of passively taking bad thoughts, learn to say no. The soul has to imagine itself in the act in order to taste the fruit of the acted state. Remember that the food you pick is only caused by awareness and has no other reason for existing. Things that have happened to you, are happening to you, and will happen to you are all your fault. They could not have come into your life unless you allowed them to. Now, give yourself permission to only think happy thoughts of realized wishes before your senses confirm them. Give up your animal urge to suffer and soak up your pain and self-pity. The psychological tongue is a lot like the physical tongue. If someone irritates you, push them away and keep your mind's tongue away from the painful places of anger. Your little mental talks shape your future. Give up your mind and body of pain, because the Bible says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Cover yourself in happiness and good news, and you will enter your Sancta Sanctorum wearing your eternal jacket of love. You can't see or hear the music in your world, and no one else has an aura like yours, and a bloodhound knows it. If two smells were the same, the dog would not be able to find you. You are one of a kind, though, and your level of being shines through in your aura. Don't judge auras just because you have to look through your own to see someone else's. What you see is just your idea of a guy. Being lazy is a curse. Whoever wants to do what's right is blessed. Keep your imagination in check with. Pay close attention and don't be afraid to speak out. This part of the mind is represented by Andrew, the follower. Pay attention to your thoughts and train them to come from the feeling of having what you want. You won't be awake until your outer self calms down and your inner self starts moving. Some people say not to try to end someone's pain. They say to let the dirty stay dirty. What does that mean to you? Come with me. God gave man the power to think for himself, and everyone can think about anything. They manifest whether they are good, bad, or neutral once they get into awareness. If you are brave enough to use this advice, you will never worry about why you failed again. This is Chapter 3, Want. As you are, so will God look to you. To a priest, God is the head of all heavenly and human records. To a judge, God is the great judge who always punishes. To a Hottentot, God is the kind of leader he would like to be. In other words, people always make God look like them. God has always been God, and only truth can save people. But the God you worship now will soon no longer be your God, because as the soul grows, it changes more and more of its thoughts and learns more and more truth. By learning how to worship and who to love, this teaching will help you change your idea of God. God doesn't change, your idea of him does. Everything you do is driven by desire. You can't move without it. Ask yourself, what do you need from me? After that, think about what you want, feel it, and then you will have given yourself what you want. Life is nothing more than satisfying hunger, and the endless number of stages of awareness are the food for that hunger. The same is true for wealth, peace, unity, and fame. They are all states of awareness. Health is a wish, a hunger that can be satisfied when the thought that I am healthy is formed in the mind. If you identify with the state you want to be in and stay in that state, you will bring what you are aware of into the world. This is because you and God are one awareness. There is pain represented by the cross. There is no real cross that a man was nailed to, but a man does carry a set of ideas. You don't deserve me if you don't deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow me. Raise your awareness and lift your cross. Your I am is what made your world. You live and move in time as a person, but your true self is in forever. The straight line of the cross can be thought of as the line of being, where all the different states of awareness meet. You can't get smarter or better over time. In fact, time can't change your level of being at all, because change only happens on the vertical line, where you move up or down in your own being. As change is coming soon, we say that it is infinitely imminent, which means nearer than near, or earlier than now. You're getting closer and closer to becoming the man you want to be. You can become the ideal person you dream of being by changing how you react to life. I will give to each being according to his work, it says in the Apocalypse. You are only supposed to work on yourself. Look at how you respond to life to start this work. Don't forget that your future is already planned out. The timeline is full, and so are all the events that may happen to you as you move up or down in your being. Things will change in your life. Now that you're at a certain level of rest, get up, grab your bed, and walk. This will break the chains of your life that are holding you here. Change your thinking to break these threads. Only by rising within will you see a change in the outside world. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to have eyes that could not see evil? What if you were only kindness, love, and generosity? Draw attention to those thoughts and then look at how you relate to them. You work this law here, in the middle of life's storms. If you connect with a state of lovelessness, you will sink into it. But you can lift your cross by giving up your current level of being and breaking your automatic, mindless responses to life. This message is not about peace, it is about a sword. The time has come for man to face his brother, his father, his mother, and everyone else in his family. I bring the sword of truth, which is God's word. This word cuts through both mind and spirit more deeply than any two-edged sword. I'm not telling you to turn against your family and friends on earth. What I am saying is that you should turn against the main ideas in your mind that control how you act and react to life. If you don't feel good about your thoughts right now, fight them because they are your psychological mother. Putting new feelings in their place does this. You can't change how you feel until you change how you think, and thoughts cause feelings. The only people a man believes to be true are those in his own family. This sword is so sharp that it can cut through mind and spirit. Spirit is your father and your I am. When you honor him, you must do so in spirit and truth. Hold your breath and say to yourself, I am he. The things you wear are made up of what you agree to, what you believe, and what you accept as true, no matter how smart or foolish they are. But if you pick up your cross and follow your imagination, you can change your clothes and reach a higher level of being. Most of us have no plans. We want more and for the other person to change, but we don't want to do the one thing that will make it happen: change ourselves. John says, I will give to each one according to his work, in the Apocalypse. The gift is not based on the work of someone else, but on the work you do with yourself. Your work is to seriously look at how your response to life holds you back at a certain level. Separate yourself from your negative thoughts and connect with your goal, which will raise you to that goal's level, because your ideal is in that vertical line where you are now. Seek and ye shall find, says the Bible. When you do, you will become like it. I tell you, your wish will never come true until you become the desire. The people who look for love only make their lovelessness manifest. You never have to look for what you are. You and I are both Mary. We always have a false idea of ourselves. All of human life is about satisfying desire, and when desire is thought of as fulfilled, it is seen as outside of the person. You won't be able to imagine anything bigger if you aren't hungry enough to go beyond your current level of awareness. You won't be able or willing to get out of the state you're in as long as you love it. Life would have no point without the straight line of states. This never-ending set was known to the ancients as Jacob's ladder. The only way to climb this ladder is to learn more about yourself. When you think of someone else, all you can see is what you think about them. He is kind if you think he is kind, and stupid if you think he is stupid, because that is the part you have given him based on your view. If you want him to change, you have to change how you feel about yourself first, because he is just your opinion of yourself played out in public. That's what you are. So, only connect with the emotions that will help you make your dreams come true, and may all of your dreams be good ones. Part 4. You're making wine. The goal of the Bible is to help people reach a better level of being. The story starts with Moses and his finding of the I am. Next, the book of Isaiah tells us to turn your foot from the Sabbath and delight in the Lord. Let's look at this idea to see what it really means. This means that if you want to keep the Sabbath, you must stop having any doubts in your mind. Your religion is what you stand on. When your thought foot hits the ground, it does so automatically and mechanically. Starting right now, use your strong awareness to break the automatic hold it has on your life by focusing on what you want and taking the Sabbath. The Bible talks about twins, Abel and Cain, who represent your two sides, your inner and outer selves. Now things have to go backwards, because in the New Testament, your real identity as Christ, your inner self, and your dream of glory is shown. As you walk the world, try to see people the way they want to be seen. This will help them heal. But if you don't, you'll be like the scribes and Pharisees in Matthew 23. They do their work to be seen by other people. They preach, but don't do it. Nicodemus was a smart man who thought that if he followed the law of Moses, he could get into the kingdom of heaven. This story is told in chapter 3 of the book of John. He was told, "You must be born again, born of water and the Spirit." This shows the difference between smarts and knowledge. It's not enough to follow Moses' rule. You must also go through a change in your level of being. This will give you the knowledge to understand life. Whatever good or bad things happen in the future will start with the words you say to yourself. The clear words in the book of Deuteronomy say, "Today I set before you blessings and curses." When you scold someone, even if it's only in your mind, you curse them. On the other hand, when you treat others the way you want them to treat you, you thank them. Truth in your mind is like water. Knowing the truth isn't enough. You have to act on it too. When you do that, the psychological water turns into wine. Start right now to pay attention to all of your bad and nasty thoughts and change them. Until you separate yourself from the place where these thoughts come from, they will keep bringing you bad things in life. Part 5. Seeing God. Someone once told St. Augustine, "Oh my God, let me see you. If dying is to see you, let me die that I may see your face." But when we fell, God told us, "You cannot see my face and live. I will cause my glory to pass away, and when it passes away, you will see my back, but not my face." That God is your wonderful I am, your consciousness that always says, "I am." That's what I am. There is only one power, and that is imagination. You have the power to hurt, heal, kill, and bring life back to dead things. It is your imagination that makes light, does good, and makes bad things happen. There is no other God. People often think there are two kinds of powers, good and bad. But I tell you there is only one. There is a self in every person. This self kills and makes living, curses and makes. The only thing that is real is your awareness of being. A state of being that is total says, "I am divine," and this state of being is God. Your I am is what can't be seen. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, Matthew says. The word pure in this sentence comes from the Greek word kataros, which also means clean or clear. To be pure, the mind must be cleared of all the problems that come from old, wrong ways of thinking, and the heart must be free of any faith in a higher power. You will only be blessed when you know the one God as your true self. There is no power outside of you. The power that makes you good also makes you bad. Get rid of your trust in two forces right now. Only then will your heart be pure and you will see God. The rest of the world is just the mind's reaction to what people think. If you think that the self in someone else is making you unhappy instead of your own self, then you have grown a tree in your mind that is blocking your view and needs to be pulled down. No one shall think evil in his heart, the Bible says. I'm not talking about a physical part here. I'm talking about the mind, the core of the matter. You join the order of Melchizedek when your heart is clean. When you really read the story, you'll see that when Abraham killed the kings, all of his bad and mean thoughts came back to meet Melchizedek, who represents the I am that you are. You need to train your mind, because only a mind that is controlled can keep feeling like a wish has been met. If what you dreamed about didn't happen, it's because you haven't cut the ties that hold you back from moving up. To change the way your life goes from now on, you need to stop reacting to life like a machine. Your only goal in this lesson is to push and encourage you to reach the vertical line of the cross. It's very important that you stop treating yourself like a child, because if you do, your behavior will make sense, which will keep you where you are. But if you stop criticizing, you will stop having the bad feelings that keep you in the same place and move on to a different one. Traditional wrong thinking grows like trees in your mind. To see God, you can clear it of these trees in 3 ways: naive observation, not identifying, and giving up the state you thought you were in before. The only way to see God is to believe in a power. People try to see God in small pictures. You will meet your state through naive observation. If you don't like the part the state wants you to play as it grows, stop responding to it. You won't be pure enough to see God until you stop reacting. You'll recognize him when you see him because you look like him. It gives you a self, not a bunch of different selves, because where I am is always what I am. It frees the mind from the power of making you believe in forces outside of yourself and frees the I from secondary causes. You need to pull that tree out of your mind. Start using this method right away, and all your dreams will come true. But first, you need to have a dream or a strong desire for something. Want is what drives you to take action. Figure out what your goal is. Where would you be right now if it were accomplished? What would your wife, husband, mother, father, friends, and the world look like? How would they see you now? Feel their presence, see the happiness on their faces, and hear them congratulate you. Do this over and over until you feel like you've finished. Then, once you've assumed the feeling of understanding, stay true to it. Your assumption holds all the ideas and power you need to bring it out into the world. You don't need to do anything outside because, as you say, your mind is being rearranged, and what you confirm is what you show the outside world. For example, you might want to get ahead financially, make more friends, or learn more about mysteries. You can want what you want, but this method will always work for you if you use it. You have the King of Heaven inside you. It has many states, some of which are beautiful and some of which are not so beautiful. Within you is the state that can hurt or heal, kill or bring life to death. All of these are psychological states that are fully prepared to show up in your world. If you get into a certain house state and then decide you don't want to stay there, you can leave it using the same method you used to get in, the act of assumption. Feeling sad for yourself is very easy, but giving up this emotion is very hard. You won't be able to move on to another state until you do. You have to pull out the weeds of self-pity and the trees of so-called second causes on your own. God put Adam in the garden to take care of it. You fell asleep too, but when you wake up, you will be Christ. Faith and power from God start now. Pay attention to how you respond to things in life, and don't let any bad feeling become a part of you. Give up your small hurts, your complaints, and your faith in secondary causes. Then you will be blessed because your heart will be pure and you will see God. So wake up and try yourself. You'll find that the flaws you see in other people are actually in you. Look at yourself and you'll find the Christ who is your hope of glory. Part 6. Everything is thought. When the trees of traditional wrong thought are cut down, your mental understanding will grow. Only then will you know that everything is consciousness, and consciousness is everything. You will know that any secondary cause is a tyrant, and you are losing if you believe in a force from outside yourself. You are the only one who can see what you are, so make your own world, one that is different from the one you can see now. Emerson once said, "Man surrounds himself with the true image of himself, as each spirit builds for himself a house beyond his house, a world beyond his world." There is a world out there for you, and it will come to life in a big way when you surround yourself with the true image of yourself. Your I Am consciousness has already set up as many patterns for your canvas as there are people on earth. Focus on your desire and feel yourself moving towards its center. Then, paint your consciousness canvas. Everything you need is there. It's up to you and how strong your desire is. Always look at yourself, because your awareness is the only thing that makes your life happen. Maybe you dreamed something that never happened, and now you feel like you failed. But I tell you that failure is only caused by not having a natural sense of belonging. It takes time for an idea to become a fact, and the degree to which a wish is achieved depends on how natural the sense of belonging is. This means that when you ask in my name, you are asking in my nature or character. This means that when you ask, you must feel like you are already what you're looking for. When you pray for whatever you want, believe that you have gotten it, and you will have it. You should really believe that you are what you want to be, because consciousness is the only real thing, and everything you see is just a picture of your state of consciousness. If you want to find something, you should first figure out what caused it. An effect depends on a person's state of mind, and you can't find the effect if you are not the cause of it. Because awareness is visible, you can't make the desired state feel normal if you don't feel it yourself. Ask yourself when you first became aware of being what you want to be and how much you now feel its truth. Matthew tells us, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you?" Do you have faith in that of which you are conscious? I hope you do, for without faith it is impossible to achieve anything. It is the substance of what is hoped for and the cause of all phenomena. The word perverse means to take the wrong path without fixed course, fixity, or univocal purpose. When the latest headline or news bulletin can divert you from your desire, you are perverse and fail. But if success is your goal, your mood must wear away until the feeling of succeeding is so natural that you cannot turn away from it. On the other hand, importunity means impudent impudence. If you persist in your assumption, your impudent impudence will not allow you to accept the evidence of your senses when they deny your assumption, but you will rearrange the substance called life according to the pattern of your assumption. This world moves with the need to mold and manifest the arrangement of the individual's mind. It is important to persist until realization becomes your nature. Changes begin to occur in your moment of naturalness. Jacob said to the Lord, "I will not let you go until you bless me." Like Jacob, you can wrestle all night with an idea, and all ideas come down from heaven to become flesh. If you do not take no for an answer, but persist in the feeling of your desire fulfilled, you will be blessed with its externalization. The scripture tells of a man whose son had died, but when he went to the man of God and asked him to bring him back to life, he was granted it. Your ideal, whether it be success, health, romance, money or fame, is your son who is dead. But if you believe in his life and walk in the assumption that you are successful, healthy or rich, if that is your desire, your sleeping son will rise from the dead state and be made alive in your world. The parable is told of a judge who is said to have neither feared God nor looked upon man. Within you there is such a judge who will give you anything you ask for if you are as persistent as the widow in the story. Coming at midnight, she persisted in her request until the judge granted her wishes, saying, "Because this widow troubles me, I will vindicate her, or she will wear me out with her continual comings." When the light of conscience does not shine upon your fulfilled desire, it is midnight. But if you fill your desire with your light of conscience and persist, then that of which you are conscious you will become. Always be surrounded by the true image of yourself and what you are, that only you can see, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. Observe your reactions to life, and you will be observing the being from whom you wish to separate. As you begin to identify yourself with the state you have chosen, separation occurs. But your assumption must be a maintained attitude, and if for a moment you lose the state of mind, regain it, and if you lose it again, Feel it again until the state of mind becomes so natural that your thinking from that state of mind is normal. The great failure of most students of truth is that they are perpetually building up but postponing their occupation. When you enter the desired state, feel its presence surrounding you like an answered prayer. Then become one with the state so that your thoughts flow from it. Persist in seeing your world from that state, and it will become a fact. You and you alone determine the time for the state to externalize. If your mind is so disciplined that it cannot be turned or diverted, your heart's desire will externalize on the screen of your space. But if you believe in any secondary power, your belief will cause its delay. Your consciousness is the power. The word is divine, not divisional. There are not two I ams, but one I ams on many levels. The desire claiming its realization now. Struggle like Jacob, but when the struggle is over, desire like Israel is born. You may think your name is John Brown or Mary Smith, but our real name is I am, and your dominant state of mind is your nature. Divorce yourself from one state of mind and assume a new nature. Persist in your new relationship, and you will give birth to its children as new phenomena appear that bear witness to your creative inner I am. Only if you lack importunity and constantly return to the state of mind from which you are trying to divorce yourself will failure occur. Desire is hidden identity. What you desire you already have. If you recognize as a fact that you are already what you desire to be, and do not let yourself be diverted, but keep your importunity walking in the mood of wholeness which now dominates you, no power on earth will be able to prevent you from expressing it. But you must feel yourself directly in the situation of answered prayer, for only by believing that you already have it will it appear. He who prays successfully is himself the springboard of action, and he who grants the prayer, there is no other being who grants it. He who receives the answered prayer is the one who grants it through the act of rearranging the mind. Learn to rearrange your mind, and if you find yourself walking in the field of unanswered prayers, turn around and walk in the mood field of the. And remember, faith is the certainty of what is hoped for, the conviction of what is not seen. The only reality and the only substance is consciousness, from which all prayer has its beginning and its end. The whole book of Hebrews is devoted to faith. Faith is enduring as the seeing of him who is invisible, and faith is the substance of things hoped for. To us this good news was announced, the same as to them, but it did not profit them because it was not mingled with faith. The good news is the desire fulfilled. If the desire is not mixed with faith, it is of no avail. Faith is the awareness of the reality of the fulfillment of desire. You see, creation is finished, and we only become aware of increasing portions of it. The absence of faith would be to deny the reality of the assumed state. If you limit yourself to your physical senses, which contradict all that you desire, then faith will be unknown to you. But faith will make real that which is invisible. The being you would like to be, though invisible, will be unveiled and made visible for all to see. When you walk in the faith of its reality, Chapter S, Righteousness. If you have a goal and do not achieve it, you have sinned because you have not achieved your desire. However, if you have no desire, you are incapable of sinning. The righteous, being aware that he has already achieved his goal, cannot sin. In the book of Daniel we are told, "Break off your sin with righteousness." This does not refer to any church or ritual, for righteousness is right thinking. In the book of Genesis, it is told how Jacob desired to increase his riches. In a dream, he saw spotted lambs, striped goats, and cattle. Then he said, "I will hold fast to my righteousness and will not let go of it, so that my righteousness will answer for me in the times to come." Follow Jacob's example. Lift up your eyes with a controlled imagination and see what you want to see. Believe in your vision, and your faith will make it solid and real in your manifested world. While sitting in your chair, you may assume a state of consciousness which you wish to possess, though your reason and your external senses deny its reality. Then, like Jacob, you can say, "My righteousness shall answer for me in time to come." Jacob knew that he should not become perverse and turn away from the new state, but that by maintaining the consciousness of possessing what reason denied, including the law of genetics, he would achieve his goal. God the Father is not a man, but the dominant idea you serve. The enemies of your idea are those of your own house, your own thought. Hold a dominant idea in your consciousness, and in a way you do not know, your righteousness, right thinking, will cause the desired state to be externalized in your world. A Pharisee is one who conforms to all man-made laws, one who strictly observes the Levitical law of external purification. Now we are told, unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. But seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. True righteousness is conscience. We mistake the word and seek righteousness as a thing, but the consciousness of being is the magnet that draws a thing to it. Impregnate your conscience with the feeling of being the man or woman you want to be, and your righteousness will achieve it. Christianity is not inherited, but adopted as you enter into its inner conviction, become clearer and nobler. Christ taught righteousness in his law of the identically made, saying, "What a man sows, that shall he reap," taken psychologically. A state of consciousness sown within the mind will be reaped outside as external events. And in the same way, as long as you remain sowing your present state of consciousness, you will continue to encounter similar events in your life. Walk consciously aware of the feeling of your desire being fulfilled, and never sin by missing the experience of fulfillment. But you cannot turn away and return to your former state. We are all the prodigal son who went astray, but we are told that when he came to his senses, he turned around and entered his father's house, at which time he was given the fatted calf, the robe, and the ring. When you observe who you are in consciousness and come to your senses, turning to your Father, the desired state will be given to you. Observe your reactions to life, and you will discover where you are psychologically. If your reactions are not loving, you are walking in the mud and mire feeling the pigs. But when you turn inward, toward the Father of all life, and enter the state you desire, assuming its fulfillment, your actions will be delightful. Persist, and you will emerge from the mire and enter the realm of desire fulfillment. There is no such thing as righteous indignation, for the wrath of man cannot work righteousness. Nothing so antipathetic as righteous indignation can be righteous conscience. My goal is to be one who expands in consciousness, for I am a teacher and must always grow as a teacher. This is my goal, and I must remember it morning, noon, and night. I must persist in this state as it externalizes itself in my world. The story is told of a blind girl who had 5 brothers. The brothers, trusting their senses, went out into the world and were lost, while the girl, unable to trust her senses, spun a golden thread, tied one end to her finger and the other to the sun, and was never lost. You too can learn to trust in the light of consciousness, holding on to the thread that is your goal and not allowing yourself to become entangled in the evidence of your senses. Remembering your desire, you will not be lost like the 5 brothers, for you will not be concerned with what others do, but will simply walk in awareness of being the one you want to be. No power can keep you from your goal when you are aware that you have already reached it. You are told, "Seek first the kingdom and its righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." The kingdom of heaven is within you. Turn within, and you will find the power to produce what nature and your outer senses deny. Test yourself by controlling your thoughts. seeing only what you want to see and hearing only what contributes to your realization that your world is as you want it to be. If you keep controlling your world in your imagination until the one sensation overrides all other ideas, your right consciousness will answer for you, and your dream will become your reality. But if you are not fulfilled, you can easily get sidetracked and miss your goal. The teaching of the Bible is to rise higher and higher in consciousness until rebirth occurs. There is only one purpose in life, and that is to rise higher and higher on the vertical bar of the cross. Knowing the state you wish to express, walk as if you were expressing it now. No man, having put his hand to the plough, looks back. In other words, once you have moved into the new state, do not look back to the old state, or you will become like Lot's wife. She looked back and became a statue of salt, which is a preservative. The moment you look back to your former state, you re-enter it, as there are all states preserved in your imagination and ready to be occupied. The kingdom of heaven, as a higher state of consciousness, represents a step above where you are at present. Each higher level is reached by a change of attitude to something more positive and constructive. In this context, there is no problem that cannot be solved through a change of consciousness. What requires a state of consciousness to produce its effect can never be achieved without that specific state. It is completely foolish to expect security while being aware of insecurity. Likewise, you cannot feel insecure if you walk with the full awareness of being secure. It is not necessary to pull strings or manipulate external situations to get what you want. It is simply enough to walk with the awareness that you already possess what you desire. An assumption, even if initially false, if persistently maintained, will solidify and become a concrete fact. It is not a matter of trying to be a better man in general, but to improve in specific aspects. Many students of metaphysics do not set concrete goals, arguing that God knows best. However, if we consider that you and God, your Father, are one, this perspective is questionable. Human nature tends to wait for things to materialize first, and then believe in them. But according to this teaching, you must first assume the awareness that you already have, or are your desire, before you can see signs of its manifestation. Signs follow belief, they do not precede it. So look first for the conscious feeling that you have already attained your goal, and then will come the confirmation of its attainment. You do not get things and then become righteous. To be righteous means to have a correct and fair perception of reality. You should always aspire to a higher level than the one you are currently at, symbolically dying to your current level in your Father's house. There are many mansions, implying a wide range of states of consciousness and possibilities. Leave your present mansion behind and attain the one you seek by assuming the consciousness and attitude corresponding to that new state. Chapter 8. The Perfect Will of God. Humanity, understood psychologically, is an infinite series of levels of consciousness, and each individual is defined by the place he occupies in this series. Paul, in the book of Romans, exhorts us not to be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable, the perfect will of God. This means that we should not take the external world as the only reality, but break its spell by transforming our thinking. However, we cannot change our thinking until we change our ideas, for it is ideas that form the basis of our thinking. Remember that your level of consciousness attracts your life and is the sole cause of the phenomena you observe. To be conscious is to do the will of God, whose name is I Am. By always being conscious, what you are conscious of is what you are. Think of an infinite scale of values as I Am, with your desired state just above where you are now. God speaks to you through the language of desire. When you desire to ascend, it is God speaking, calling you to surrender to the feeling of already being what you want to be. You must let go of fear, limitation and doubt, and submit to God's will. A simple assumption will raise you to the level at which your ideal is identified, and you will begin to see your world differently. This is where self-observation comes in. You don't observe the outside world, but your reactions to it. If someone displeases or offends you, look within yourself to the self that has heard with displeasure and is expressing that. Although it is hard to believe, you alone are the cause of your displeasure. Your inner conversations are the breeding ground for all your future action. You hold endless discussions, morning, noon, and night. When you catch yourself, break the habit by consciously creating new thoughts, thus creating a new record that will manifest in your future. God's will is I am, and this will is always being done because it is the power that resurrects and gives life. There is no transforming power in time, only in the transformation of the moment. If you are having difficulty with another person, look within yourself, for it is the self called you that is speaking to you as a thought. Listen carefully to what you are saying to yourself, and you will discover where the difficulty lies. I, O soul, is that which you believe, feel, think, and consent to. You may consent to the belief that you have been mistreated, that you are foolish, or that they are causing your displeasure. If you do, your consent shapes your level of being and attracts your life, whether it is good, bad, or indifferent. You cannot change your soul by joining churches, synagogues, or groups. You must address yourself, the inner self that you also know, for it is it that attracts those who mistreat you and determines every little detail of your outer experience. If you have a secret affection for your conflicts, you cannot be helped. But when you consent to be otherwise, then you can change. Submit to the will of God by first knowing your ideal and then submitting to it, doing in your imagination what you would do physically if your desire were realized. Once this is clearly defined, repeat the act again and again until you are affected by it, and its realization possesses your mind. When the idea is so firmly rooted and your thoughts flow freely from it, watch, because you will have a change in your external world. Become pure in heart, purging your mind of the belief in powers outside yourself. Then, believing that consciousness is the only reality, weave with yourself a new state of consciousness. Your world is your externalized state of consciousness. Clean house by observing your thoughts. When you begin to do this, you will find that most of your thoughts are unpleasant. But as you learn to think passively about the people who displease you, your thoughts will lose their lovelessness, and with a mind filled with joy and gratitude, you will ascend Jacob's ladder to the realm of love. When you have carefully defined your desire, yield to it completely. Then try to remain true to the new idea you have entered into. You may not succeed at first, but do not condemn yourself. Simply return as often as necessary until the feeling becomes so strong that your thoughts flow habitually from the new state. This teaching is not for those who seek to escape from life or want to point an accusing finger at another. To find the Christ in you, who is your hope of glory, you must be willing to challenge yourself. Christ is your inner self that calls all people and manifestations to you. It is easier to live life blaming others, but I urge you to pray, not for an easier life, but for the strength to become a stronger man. The one who bears witness to your thoughts, and not another, is the cause of your misfortune. Transforming yourself by renewing your mind will enable you to understand and accept the good word of God. It would be acceptable for you to be elevated. That is the will of God, who will not stop until you have executed and fulfilled the purposes of your mind. You are doing God's will when you identify with your desire. If you believe in your claim, you are righteous, and your world will overcome your righteousness. But if you do not believe, you will fail and die in your sins. The only way out of the life you now lead is a radical psychological transformation of yourself. This is accomplished by defining yourself with your desire and changing your thoughts until their effect possesses your mind and you reside comfortably in the new state. Your level of being attracts your life, and unless you change that level, your story will remain the same. Let your present level die by submitting your whole being to a higher level. Try it. It is not difficult. Remove the control of the wrong emotional reactions of the past by reviewing your experiences and changing them. Do this by rewriting the experience in your mind, saying what you should have said, and doing what you should have done at the time. Let this corrected image settle in your subconscious, while you resolve not to make the same mistake again. By repeating this technique, you will free yourself from feelings of hatred, resentment, and other emotional disturbances that cling to your memory. As you free yourself from these destructive feelings, you will free yourself from their power to attract ill health and wrong results to you. Relaxation of the body, passivity of the mind, and fixation of attention on the objective desire equals fulfillment of the objective. Anxiety has no creative power in this school of educational darkness. Consciousness, whose origin is in eternity, provides the power for your experiences in time. So test yourself, for in this teaching there is no room for failure. Chapter 9. Be doers of the word. In the book of Hebrews, Paul tells us, "Rest in the Lord." Why? Because the man who rests in the Lord is transformed into the image in which he rests. If my goal is to be a good teacher and I rest in that feeling, I will be transformed into that image. Unfortunately, most of the states in which men rest are negative. Feeling insecure, you will rest in the conviction that the world owes you a living. Feeling hurt, it is easy to rest in that aggravation until your state of mind becomes natural. You may condemn the state and believe that others are its cause, but through your feelings of being hurt, you will be transformed into the very image of the state you condemn. And if someone seems to cause you displeasure, remember that there is no other. The state in which you rest is making you. Listening to silent and invisible conversations, though the words are heard by you and you alone, they act as magnets and draw to you the circumstances of your life. Be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. At each meeting, I share with you the knowledge I have acquired through personal experience, but I cannot force you to put it into practice. As a teacher, I demand results. As a student, I exhort you to test this truth, for if it is true, it will prove itself in the test. In the 25th chapter of the book of Matthew, the parable is told of the servants to whom their master gave talents. To one he gave 5 talents, which he increased to 10. To another he gave 2 talents, which he increased to 4. And when the third received his 1 talent, he buried it, not allowing it to increase. When the master returned, he was glad of the increase which the first 2 had given him, but he took from the one who had hidden his talent and gave it to the one who had 10, saying, "To everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have plenty. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away." This teaching is like that of the talents. Practice daily, your power of consciousness will grow. If you are only a listener, your knowledge, if not soon utilized, will wither and atrophy. Test yourself daily, leave others alone and turn to yourself, for the promise is according to your work, it shall be done unto you. The man who overcomes himself rises to a higher level of being. Look critically at your reactions to life, then work on yourself by practicing this psychologically. Only by working on yourself can you rise to a higher level, but you cannot do it with a negative emotion. It must be positive. We are told, lift up your eyes to the hills, where your help comes from. Negative thoughts cause downward emotions, while positive thoughts uplift. If you listen to your thoughts, Stop their negative flow and change them so that you are hearing what you want to hear. You will feel a positive emotion of relief, which is followed by a stillness that brings with it the knowledge that your prayer has been answered. How does the title of this lesson imply? We are urged to be doers of the word and not just hearers, deceiving yourself. In the book of James, a hearer is defined as a man who looks at his natural face in the mirror, then turns around and forgets what he looks like. Whereas a doer is one who looks at the perfect law of liberty, perseveres, and is blessed in all that he does. How do you look in the mirror of the mind and be pleased with what you see? By looking at the face of your wife, husband, parent, or friend. Close your eyes, relax, and think of a friend who would rejoice in your good fortune. Tell them your good news, and watch the expression of joy that appears on their imagined face. His expression will set you free, for his knowledge has freed you to express your desire. Having contemplated the perfect law of freedom, persevere, and you will be blessed in doing so. In the book of Matthew, the law is stated thus: "Whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them, for this is the law of the prophets." We learn here that the Bible is talking about the mind of a person, not his body. The Bible keeps track of what you do inside, telling you that the thoughts you have are what shape the things you do in the future. Don't have talks with imagined people in your head. Pay attention to your thoughts, pick and choose which ones to talk to yourself, and make sure they are positive. The mechanical imagination is asleep and negative, but the waking imagination is awake and good. Pick someone you care about tonight and change how you feel about them. If you talk to him in your head about this new idea, you will be a doer of the word. Don't listen if you don't want to be honest with yourself. This message is meant to make you aware of what a living, moving being you really are. When you're asleep, your thoughts are gloomy and dull, and they can't change. Passive and won't change until you look at how you respond to life without judging it. Be honest with yourself, and you'll find a monster inside you that you don't like. This monster needs to be tamed. Fill that monster's mind with good thoughts, happiness, and satisfaction, and it will become a loving being. Make it a habit to notice how you respond to things in your life. Give yourself what you need every day by stopping yourself from responding badly. When you have a bad thought, break it down and quickly switch to a positive one. All of your hurts, complaints, and thoughts that other people are to blame for your pain are animals that need to be killed on the altar of awareness. Let go of all the bad emotions. Pick the house state you want to go to and then go there. The same rule that makes people poor also makes people rich. Both weak and poor people should say, "I am strong and I am rich," because only what you believe inside can come out. Keep being poor, and poor people will come out. By saying, "I am secure," you can feel safe, and you will feel safe. But even if you don't feel like you're in the state you want to be in, you will never experience its effects, because something that needs a state of awareness to work will never work without one. You have to put yourself in the shoes of your answered prayer, and then live and act from that place of faith. If you don't, you'll never know what that state does. Your good or bad luck came from your state of mind. There is no other reason. Be brave enough to accept this, and then get things done. You will be blessed in everything you do if you do that. Be aware of what you say to yourself right now, and stop taking those thoughts in automatically and without thinking. What you are shapes what you hear, and what you hear shapes what you are. Because kind people have kind ideas, kind people have kind thoughts. So, be kind to each other, have soft hearts, and forgive each other. A guess is now known as the crown of secrets, and you are the only one who can make them. What you think about the world when you look at it is more important than what you see. The skill that was given to you is the ability to make educated guesses. Do not bury this information to sleep, It's like you don't care about what you see or hear during the day. Get up. Take note of what you're doing and what you're telling yourself. Raise your awareness by taking charge of your thoughts and changing them to be good, loving, positive, and rewarding. Part 10 is called The Pearl of Great Price. The pearl of great price is in your hands when you have the mind of Christ. Because the pearl of great price is your own imagination, it is almost here, closer than close, and sooner than now. You have always had this mind, but like any other property, you don't have it unless you know it's yours and are ready to use it. Believe me, everything in your world began in your imagination. This includes the house you live in, the car you drive, the clothes you wear, as well as your friends, family, enemies, and even random people on the street. It's time to take charge of your human imagination and rule it with love. I urge you to understand that everything you're looking for is already inside you. There is only one mind, but there are many levels of awareness. Where you are and what you are depend on your level, because you are what you think you are. This mind is not something different from you. It's just your lovely imagination. You can be saved from your current situation or stuck in it by the body of the Father and the one redeeming power of the Vero. The Bible says that Christ is the power of God and knowledge in you. He is your hope and glory. This power makes everything happen. Without him, nothing would happen, because Christ, who is your wonderful human imagination, is also you. When you look out your human eye, you see a world that doesn't seem to be connected to you. But when you look at the world through the self of your imagination, you understand what it means. You will find that you are your own rescue if you look inside and test yourself. Then you'll start to show that your imagination is more important than what other people say. You'll stop giving in to their rules, and your dreams will come true. A self-disciplined man is one who has been home. Check in with yourself to tame yourself. Do you waste your strength on bad feelings? If so, you need to punish yourself to get out of the muck you've been living in and rise with your peers to a place of joy and love. If you do this, you will have found the world's most valuable pearl. You look like a real person, man or woman. People know who your dad is, who your mom is, and who your siblings are. But I'm telling you, you're much better than the best man in the world. You are Jesus Christ, beautiful love. As you sleep in your body of flesh, wake up as the love that you are and say that your mind is Christ. It is the key that will open the wealth chest in heaven, so claim your pearl of great price. When your mind is set on Christ, you won't be able to think bad things, and you won't want to get back at people. As Jesus, the great Jehovah of the Old Testament, you find satisfaction in the new by using the mind of a person. The Bible is your story. You are asleep. It's time to wake up and get rid of the mind of man that says, I can, I was, or I will be. Instead, you should claim your heavenly inheritance, which is the mind of God that says, I am. God can do anything, and you can do anything if you say you are God's mind. The world around you works like a machine, and everything you do and feel is routine. Forget about your amazing human imagination and grow into a better person in every way. Take charge of your imagination to change the things that happen in your life if you don't like them. Once you know what you want, ask yourself, where would you sleep? How would your world look? Would a friend be glad for you? You can fall asleep anywhere you want, as long as you have the answers to your questions in clear mind. Look at things that way, and listen to your friend be happy. And now that what you want is real, believe in Christ, who has the power to make everything work for you, and it will happen. Remember that there is no such thing as a powerful fate that you must obey, and you don't have to base your life on what other people say. Go inside, find your pearl of great price, and remember that what seems to be is actually what it seems to be for those who see it. It can lead to the worst things, like torture, erosion, and death forever. For this is what William Blake says in his poem Jerusalem, but divine mercy goes even further and saves people through the body of Jesus. Chapter 11. Remembering who you are. You have a goal for your life. If so, do something right now to raise yourself to that level. Remember yourself. To get above where you are now, don't try to be a better person or man. Instead, get better at something. Your goal must be so important to you that you can't forget about it, and you must be so eager to make it real that you can't and won't let go of the thought until it comes to life. The Bible says, "Many are called, but few are chosen." To be chosen means to separate, pick, or decide. Every day you can pick a new thought and move into a new state of mind from which to think and feel. You can bring up any number of feelings and thoughts, but because of the goal you want to connect with, only a few are picked. Get higher inside yourself by letting go of old ideas and limits. Pick out the feelings and thoughts you want to share, and then let yourself feel what you want. 2 followers were told in Mark 11, "Go into the village where you will find a colt at the crossroads that no one has sat on." When they got there, they untied the donkey and asked, "Why are you doing this?" He told them, "The Lord needs him." And they got on the untied donkey and rode toward the city of Jerusalem. At every fork in the road, the animal isn't a horse or an ass. It's the person's constant and main feeling. You may find it hard to ride when you want to show a new mood, but your feelings will always be stuck at the crossroads of life. You might not be able to feel safe for more than a few seconds at a time if you've never felt safe before. But it's important to try, because a well-controlled imagination can take you to the city of peace, which is the perfect state. When it comes to a wish, a feeling is right or wrong. Staying focused on what you want will never make you feel calm. You are going in the wrong way and will never get there. But if you keep believing what you think, even though you feel like it's not true, it will become true. It's possible to let questions get in the way of your goal, even if it seems like the right thing to do. Don't judge yourself when this happens. Just get back on that feeling and ride it again, because the beast is wild and needs to be ridden until you and it become one. Chapter 12. Your fate. True power comes from love, and the more love you have, the more powerful you are. When the Bible talks about violent people taking over the kingdom, it's not about violent people. It's about the power of love, which gives people the strength they need to reach a higher level of consciousness. In a psychic sense, life is endless, so there is no final fate. To quench a hunger whose main force is desire is what it is. With each level of the vertical line of the cross inside him, man rises above the springs of his desire. This is because his desires are set up in a way that makes him live through them to higher and higher levels of himself. Like all true masters, I teach the art of getting past the violence that is part of being human right now. While we have come a long way since our ancestors, we are still just as violent as they were. What makes you so mean and angry that I want you to change? If you do that, your awareness will rise, and you will find your path. You are always being offered the chance to show that you can handle violence. How? Being aware of the fact that consciousness is the only reality, and that nothing else has reality but your knowledge of it. In that assumption, you will find the only thing that can explain life. Your responses to life are what make you who you are, and your life will stay the same as long as those responses stay the same. It's only your state of awareness that you see in the world. It is impossible for something to change if there is no change in awareness. This is because consciousness is the only thing that forms and causes life. Your awareness self projects everything you agree to into the world, whether it's good, bad, or not important at all. If you want to feel safe, you have to make your safety awareness so strong that you can feel it and tell yourself, "I am safe." You can agree to violence and wrongs, or to safety and peace of mind. You will own what you agree to when you become aware. Your goal is always just ahead of where you are now. Ask yourself several times a day if you are aware of your goal. This will show you how close or far you are from it. If you aren't aware that you are sure right now, tell yourself that you are and keep going. And you might find that as you watch your day tomorrow, that awareness gets stronger. Learn to stand on your own and say, I am what I am because I am from being. Instead of looking at other people, pay attention to how their actions affect you. Look inside yourself and change your mean behavior into a loving one. If you do this, you will move up in life and reach your goal. You can't become a new level of thinking through the work of someone else. Being aware is the rock you need to stand on. Anything else is just sinking sand. The very idea that a new idea will come about. Through evolution is the craziest thing that can happen. Before what you want can be seen, it has to be lived. There is a big difference between knowing something in your mind and knowing it in your heart. You can learn about the law of the identical harvest from my books and know in your mind what you need to do to be wealthy, but you will never truly be wealthy until you say to yourself, I am wealthy. A person is sick because he is aware of being sick. Let the sick person say, I am well, the hungry person say, I am full, and the troubled person say, I am at peace, and their right consciousness will bring about what they are aware of. If you want to know what love is, you have to love first. You can't know a thought until you love. I teach the art of being, or how to know a place spiritually. We are told in the book of Joel that the weak man should say, I am strong. This is true for your whole being, not just your body. Look to your spirit to find out what you want, because the spirit will only come into your world when it feels like desire is normal. Remember this always. You will never experience what you refuse to believe about yourself. Awaken and become more and more aware of what's going on inside you. Take up your cross and don't look left or right to ask someone else for help. Instead, look inside and actively claim your goal. Then, watch it come true. You will stay where you are if you don't follow through on what I say, because you have to do things in order to be blessed by them. You are already what you want to be when you have a desire. If you hadn't found me, you would never have looked for me. To reach the level of being you want, all you have to do is change how you react to life to match the level you want to show. You don't have to push, pull, or ask for help. All you have to do is change your mood and make your goal clear. Be honest with yourself about what you're saying to yourself and how you're responding to it. When you are in control of your thoughts and deeds, you will reach your higher level and reach your goal. Don't judge other people. Instead, try to wake them up. You can do this by waking yourself. You take all guys with you as you become more aware. You can think of your amazing imagination as the endless vertical line of the cross and time as the cut in the middle. You can go up or lift the cross, but you can't go up until you accept your limits. Accepting Christianity means living with your mind open. To accept Christianity, you need to know what it is. If you don't like what you're going through in life, change your mindset to change the way you think. Make the state you want and stay in it, in your mind. You change yourself this way. When you reach the state you want, pay attention. Where you are, your world will change into the ideal you hold in. Your mind. You are the temple of the living God, so the ground is holy. Make your heart pure and clear your mind of the trees of old ways of thought. Then you will see that consciousness is everything, and everything is consciousness. You will learn that the state you are aware of being is the state that has manifested. No matter how you try to explain violent acts, you should not accept them. You add to the state if you do that, and you don't want to be in that state. People say that Jesus went into the temple and freed it from the moneylenders. He He said, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have turned it into a den of thieves." This is not a real temple. You are the temple of the living God, and the Bible is your life story. Thieves have broken into your house of prayer and put up fake values there. Get rid of all the ideas that things happen outside of you, and put back in your mind the one true value of consciousness and the one true power of love. Chapter 13 is your own story. You are your own story in the Bible, which is both the best and worst book in the world. Your teachers teach you that it is an account of historical events, but it is not. Its works were never meant to be taken that way. It's full of stories about people and events that never happened in real life. The Bible talks about the heavens inside and the earth outside. It starts with the words, "In the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth." The earth had no shape or form, and there was darkness over the deep. Then God's Spirit said, "Let there be light," and there was light. The light being talked about here comes from heaven, which is inside you. The light that shines on earth is your awareness shining from inside you. The outside man, which is called earth, is dark. The inside man, which is called heaven, is the being who was with God in the beginning and is God, but it is sound asleep. The Bible tells your story from the beginning to the end, and how you are raised to a higher level of being. There is a book called the Pentateuch in the Old Testament. It has the law of Moses in its first 5 books. The Old Testament was written around 500 BC, while the New Testament wasn't written until 170 AD. The epistles to the Hebrews and the books of Peter and James were not in the oldest known copy of the New Testament. James is the one who talks about the man with 2 minds and says that the Lord can't give him anything. Then there are the Apocrypha, which are works by early Christians that were left out of the Jewish and Protestant Old Testaments. These writings give 4 brief biographies of a concept instead of a man. Keep in mind that the Bible has been around for 900 years, so whenever you read it, it is talking about the kingdom of heaven inside you. It talks about the coming to light of a timeless principle named Christ, who is your hope of glory. The figures in the scriptures are all parts of your mind that you will learn about as you fulfill your fate, which is to fulfill the texts within you. For real, the word stone means the truth, not a man named Moses who wrote the 10 Commandments on stones. The man with a physical mind comes first, and he is given rules to follow, which blocks the psychological truth. Seeing things as facts keeps your mind limited, so you can't understand what they really mean on a deeper level. To get the truth, you have to follow the law. Then the Spirit of God will move on this sea of understanding in your mind, and that truth will be turned into wine in your life. You will know the real name of God when you are like Moses. Take his name, your I am. As your knowledge stick, hit the stone of actual truth with it, and the water in your mind will come out. If you do what I say, the psychological water of truth that I gave you will turn into the wine of the Spirit. Now, the clothes that the Bible talks about is not clothing for the body, but clothing for the mind. It says in the 3rd chapter of Matthew that John the Baptist was like Elijah. His clothing is said to be made of camel hair, and a leather belt is said to be around his waist. Hair and skin are the most visible parts of a man. John the Baptist stands for the man on the outside who hasn't yet dressed himself on the inside. Jesus is the inner man. He wears the flawless clothes that were made from above, and people who wear them can always be found in the King's house. Rebirth is what the New Testament calls a total and radical change of who you are. John the Baptist, on the other hand, calls it forgiveness and tells us to change how we think about the kingdom of heaven. People say that he lived in the woods with wild animals. Well, you're John. You live alone in the woods when you don't have any plans and let your animal feelings run wild. But when you start to tame your animal feelings and call them to follow you, you will be filled with power and be baptized in the water of truth. Matthew tells a story about the kingdom of heaven and how it is like a sower who plants seeds in different types of dirt. That person being talked about here is not a sower. You are the sower, and that thing being talked about is your own wonderful human imagination. God, the sower, said, "Let us make man in our image." Then he went to sleep and took Adam's brain and put it inside man as a seed for his salvation. The kingdom of heaven is planted in the mind of man. In the story, the bad person comes along and takes away what is planted in your heart when you hear the word but don't understand it. But someone who listens with understanding bears fruit and makes 100 times what they heard. The kingdom of heaven is compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field but then fell asleep. While he was asleep, his enemy came and sowed tares there. When you look inside to find the truth and the kingdom of heaven, to be yourself, these weeds are false lessons that have been placed in your mind. They are false beliefs and ideas that can be burned up. In Genesis 11, it says that the Tower of Babel was made of stone, which is actual fact, and bricks, which are made-up ideas. Before the building was put up, there was only one language with a few words. But while it was being built, there was a lot of misunderstanding, and soon no one spoke the same language. Today, this tower is home to many small occult and magical groups around the world. There are only people in your own home who are against you. You think that your safety depends on how much money you have, that your health depends on the pills you take, and that your happiness depends on someone else. You build your own Tower of Babel when you do that. But I'm telling you that the only truth of the state you're in is your awareness of being, and that all the things that are against that state are inside you. Matthew says in the Beatitudes that your state of mind is lucky when it is dressed in soft clothes. This is because when you wear the smooth clothing of your imagination, you are free to rise higher and higher into the Garden of Eden inside you. You plant your own seeds in the garden of your mind, which is in your head. As a man of imagination, become aware of being what you have planted, and your crop will grow 100 times over. This is because you always become what you think about. Matthew 16:1-18 tells the story of the Pharisees and Sadducees who don't believe and ask God for a sign. After that, we are warned to watch out for the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Now, it's not about guys. It's about how people think. The Bible calls your way of thinking Pharisaical if you think you have to live in the right neighborhood, know the right people, have the right skin color, or be in the right place at the right time. Watch out for that way of thought, because the way to a better level of self is always inside, never outside. When Mark finds a very valuable pearl, he sells everything he owns to buy it. This is how the kingdom of heaven works. You won't have enough money to buy the very valuable pearl as long as you keep thinking about something outside of your own mind. You have to be ready to sell everything to someone or something else. There is only one way to get to the kingdom, and that is up. You can't walk down this road in clothes made of hair and skin. You have to wear your wedding dress, which is always sewn from the inside out. It is said again that the kingdom of heaven is like a net that is thrown into the water and takes all kinds of fish, good and bad. The good ones are put in bags when it gets to land, and the bad ones are thrown away. Be selective. Pick and choose which thoughts to keep and get rid of the bad ones. Let only good things into your mind, and you will be a good swimmer. Have you understood this? Is asked in the 13th chapter of Matthew. I pray that each of you will answer like you did and say, yes. Now it says, do not put new wine into old wineskins, for the skins burst, the wine spills, and the skins are destroyed. But put new wine into new wineskins, that both may be preserved. The old wineskins are the beliefs in power outside of oneself, the traditions of men, and the thoughts that hold them. These beliefs must be burst, the wine must spill, and the wineskins destroyed. You must put the new wine that you got when God kept his promise into your consciousness, which is like putting fresh wine cloths around two bottles. On the outside, man does not change. There is only one presence or essence in man, which is called Christ and is the power of God. And this power can awaken your hope of glory if your faith in a power other than yourself doesn't taint your word of God. Wake up and give up all your false ideas. And that means making your dream come true. If you want to change, you need to change the way you think. The Bible, from start to finish, tells you your soul's internal past. I have a new idea about what makes life happen. I want to tell you that you are not what you think you are, and that you have an endless number of ways to grow as a person. You can always get where you want to go by following your inner direction, which is your mood. If you choose an attitude, whether it's good, bad, or neutral, it doesn't depend on anything outside of you. But if you let outside rules decide your attitude, you are like Elijah and John the Baptist. Even though they taught great things, they were set in stone, and the state was brutal. John the Baptist couldn't get into the kingdom of heaven. To get past his state, you have to actively look inside yourself and train your inner emotions. As you move up the ladder of Jacob's states and reach higher and higher levels of your own being, you will awaken. This is your fate. You have to buy the state of consciousness you want to show by giving up all faith in any outside power that can help you. Once it is no longer a burden, you will move forward in faith toward the state you want. In the book of John, Jesus says as a teacher, "Do not let your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." He then adds, "It is better for me to go away, so the Comforter may not come." This seems like teaching from the outside, but you have to stop believing in any outside teacher before you can find the Comforter inside you. Your heart will feel better as you have more faith in yourself. There is only one I am, and one reason. I am the Trinity. I am God the Father in an unimaginable way, and I am the Son in a creative way. Because imagination comes from being aware of things, I am God, the Holy Spirit, in the broadest sense, in the shortest sense, and in the longest sense. When you really think about it, imminence means sooner than now and closer than here. That's why I'm the Comforter. Knowing that you don't have to wait for your dreams to come true could make you feel better. They will be there sooner than we think. This information should help you feel better. There would be a limit to what can be in an endless state, so it would not be infinite. In Exodus chapter 23 it is written, "Thou shalt not steep a child in its mother's milk." I tell you, when you keep your mind in a bad state, you are doing exactly the opposite. Negative states like need and lack will no longer be in your mind. Instead, focus on positive states like satisfaction and abundance. This will feed your desire, making it grow. In chapter 14, the spirit of man. The Bible talks about how the human spirit is always fighting to be stronger than the normal mind, which believes that the outside world is real. Man's natural mind is in charge while he sleeps, but the human spirit, which is God in a person, is trying to wake up and take control of everything. Faust knew this when he said, "Two souls lodge in my breast. One aspires to heaven and the other clings to earth." The story of Esau and Jacob, Isaac's two sons, shows this fight in Genesis 25. Esau is known for his personality, which shows up first as skin and hair, and Jacob, who has smooth skin, is his human spirit. When his mother Rebekah realized she was having a hard time, she asked the Lord for help. He told her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two persons born of you shall be divided. One shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger." Your critical faculties show you your outer world, so you can always tell what kind of mental state you're in by looking at your daily thoughts. Now, every state has its own rules and limits that it seems impossible to get around. You can never get out of the state you are in if you think that you are that state. But the story of Esau and Jacob shows you how to get away. In your mind, Esau is the world of facts, and Jacob is the world of your imagination. Since you are both their father, you can give either of them the heritage. Because you can only see what you focus on, you need to block out the outside world by focusing on something else and making up the world the way you want it to be. As you do this, close your eyes to the facts of life and focus on your own ideas. Next, give your ideas the weight of fact until they feel as solid and real as the things you know with your body. You, Isaac, will have given your son Jacob permission to be born when this is done. Your outer world always mirrors your inner subjective state. This means that you can't change your outer world until you change your inner subjective state. If you know what state you want to be in, take it all in, as if you were a sponge and the state you want to be in were water. So let yourself get lost in the feeling of being full and satisfied. You'll know you've given Esau his birthright when you open your eyes and see him again. He is the world outside. You may have fooled yourself into thinking that the state is real, but you have now given him the power to be born. How is it going to happen? No, I don't know. Only your Father in heaven does, because he has ways of making your dream come true that can't be found. Now, there is a part of you that is deeply asleep and needs to wake up. Just watch what happens when you give Jacob the power you gave Esau. Esau will stop being angry and start being meek. Then you'll know that you've changed the order of things. Jacob will keep showing you what you want to see and letting you feel what you want to feel. This will open your true soul to the truth that the world and everything in it is yours. You are the biblical Rebekah, and your children, Esau and Jacob, are always fighting with each other. The world you know through your critical skills is bigger than the world you know personally. The person you want to be is fighting to be born. You will never achieve your goal as long as you look at and believe that the outside world is the only reality. You need to focus on yourself and take responsibility for your objective reality. As you read Genesis 25 and 27, keep in mind that all the people who are described there are in your mind. You are always giving birth to twins, even if you are not married. The world you live in is a reflection of your state of awareness. That state is your first child, and it needs to be replaced by your second child or ideal state. In every story in the Bible, there is always a second son who takes the place of the first. Jacob takes the place of Esau, Jesus takes the place of John the Baptist, and Spirit takes the place of matter. Once you know what you want, be very clear about what it is. Then send it from home to stay in your externalized state. You can't touch your second child, the thought you love, until you do. Getting this done means focusing on things that are real instead of thoughts that try to keep you from wanting it. Keats wrote in Ode to a Nightingale, "My heart aches and a drowsiness numbs my senses, as if I had drunk hemlock." What he felt was so real that when he opened his eyes he asked himself, was it a vision or a waking dream? Was that music awake or asleep? When things get this intense, I want you to dress how you feel. You are already the person you want to be. Now put out your made-up hands and touch the things there. Listen with your made-up ears. Take a look. As you walk through your made-up world, taste and smell the things that are there. You can use your imagination to make anything, like a new hat or a fur coat. I hope you will use it for a good cause, like becoming great at your job, no matter what it is. Now let us look at Genesis 38, which tells the story of Judah and Tamar. Judah means praise, and Tamar means a state that you want to be in, like an oasis with palm trees. You thirst for your goal, just like Tamar did. Give yourself away, getting into the state you want to be in and making it real, merging with it. Know that your prayer was heard, and know that you are the woman named Tamar and the man named Judah. In Genesis 48, there is another story about twins. It's about Manasseh, whose name means to forgive, and his brother Ephraim, whose name means to promise. One says no, and the other says yes. When you focus on something else and confirm that your problem is solved, you forget about it for a short time. Hold on to your statement, but don't say it over and over. Instead, feel it. The problem dies of lack of attention when you feel the answer. According to the 5th chapter of Matthew, this message is not for people who are happy with their lives. It is for people who are hungry and thirsty for right thinking. Bless those who hunger and thirst for justice, because they will be filled. To bring out the Jacob in you, watch your thoughts without judging them. Imagine yourself as having two sides, one that sees with the senses and one that sees with the mind of imagination. The man of the senses is very busy and has a lot of habits, but if he does self-observation every day, he can reach a state where his power can be given to the man of imagination. The world is always seen from two different points of view, the one you see with your eyes and the one you know only in your mind. Your wish has no shape or form. It is your second child, the one who will take over the world you live in now. When the power of your awareness goes inward, you feel a deep hunger that you want to be satisfied. Now, let that desire dress your mind, knowing that it will be satisfied by how you feel. Think about how you would feel if your wish came true. Now, no matter what your problem is, you have the answer. Pay attention to making your wish come true and give it the skins of objective truth. It is important to be careful with this method of tilt, because as soon as you feel yourself in a state, you take on the fruits of that state. Thanks for reading. I hope you now know how to dress your emotional desire. Think of your desire as Jacob, and then cover it with Esau's skin and hair. How long it takes for your wish to come true depends on how normal you think it is. You are the kingdom of heaven. People can't get into this kingdom, but your imagination can. Once you separate from what you're connected to, there must be a space between you and it. This is because only the human spirit is called, and it can only pass through this self. Things that need a certain level of consciousness to work can't do anything without that level of consciousness. If you get into a state, don't worry about how it will show up in the outside world. Everything starts in awareness. You never make a state. All of them were made before the world was made. You enter a state instead, and it just shows up. Just saying, "I am poor," will put you in a state of poverty, and you will see proof of that on your screen. You don't make health, wealth, or happiness happen. They are already there, fully stocked and ready for you to move in right away. Truth is what I say, but truth by itself can't help. It has to be used. While truth that isn't used is like a lamp without oil, truth that is used is like a lamp that never runs out of oil. Don't forget that there are no mistakes, and that the imagination is the only reason. It is unintentional suicide if a mistake kills someone. Aren't we told, "No one takes my life, I leave it myself. I have the power to leave it and the power to take it up again"? The force of an accident is not outside of a person's awareness. A man is only known by the spirit of man that lives in him, and a man is nothing more than the sum of his ions. In real life, no one comes into your space unless you ask them to. Being the author of the play called life, you have the power to make anything happen. In the Bible, God is called the Father, I am, or light. The word itself, however, refers to awareness, which is timeless like an atom. Consciousness is a live thing that doesn't have a beginning or an end. It just shows how it feels. The outside of man agrees to age, but the inside of awareness doesn't. It stays the same. Before the world was, there was I am, and it will still be there when the world ends. I'm. The outside person may say I was, or I will be, but the spirit inside only says I am. If you know what you want, keep thinking that you already have it until it becomes a habit. If you don't, you'll go back to thinking the way you did before and keep doing what you will never see, putting your wish out into the world. I'll leave you with this thought. Animals will always exist as long as people are rude. The animal is just the outside sign of how violent people are. Some dinosaurs were very awkward and had small brains, just like people were back then. The dinosaurs didn't really die. They just went extinct on their own. Everyone will be able to have children if you make man tame. Chapter 15. How you feel about yourself. Your feeling of self is the first thing that led you into this world of decay and death. We live where we feel ourselves. If you don't want to believe something, you can put your sense of self in the muck of denial. You always have a sense of who you are. Because I am with you everywhere, it is both your slave and your rescuer. At the beginning of Numbers 9, the Lord tells Moses how to build a tabernacle or tent of the witness and move it through the desert. He was told, "During the day a cloud will cover the tabernacle, and at night it will have the appearance of a pillar of fire. Whenever the cloud rises, the children of Israel shall go to the place where the cloud settles, and there it shall remain. The people may rise once a week, once a month or more. But when it rises, the children of Israel must travel. Now a tabernacle is an elongated, movable, skin-covered place of worship. You are that temple, tabernacle, and the Spirit of God dwells within you. Like you, me, a cloud is a garment of water or psychological truth that covers the self and that to which it bears witness. The cloud does not move in time, but is lifted by the self it covers. According to my senses, I am now in the Palace Hotel. I will lift the cloud of my will by withdrawing the feeling self from the evidence of my senses, and I will move by placing myself in a predetermined state, and my whole world will move with me by clothing me with feeling. The cloud covers me as I testify to the state I have just entered in this moment. If you put your feeling self in an unfriendly state, you can't move or change your life until you lift the cloud that covers you. But if you do lift the cloud and put your feeling self in a more desirable state, it means that you are dead, because when the cloud is lifted, it breaks the cycle of recurrence in which you have been. Motion can only be detected as a change of position with respect to another body, and all motion talked about in Scripture is psychological. Every state exists on this psychological earth from which your self travels. All you have to do is take yourself from where it is now and put it in your default state. In a frame of reference, how will you know that you have moved while sitting still in your chair? You can lift your cloud by putting your sense of self in a completely different mental state. No one can see this movement because you are on a spiritual journey. While you are in that state, look for proof of its movement in the faces of the people there. They are surprised to see you, happy for you, and a little jealous. Watch until you see the expressions on their faces. If there is a change in your sense of self, you will find an automatic change in how you normally live your life. During the day, you wear your real dress, the cloud. But when you start to meditate, your brain becomes bright. At night, it is the pillar of fire. Remember, I am the truth, and wherever you place your feeling of self, there you must dwell. In Deuteronomy chapter 34, we are told that Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Nebo, and from there to Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho, where he was shown all the land that was his. The word Moses means to bring out, not a man, but your creative power that can bring out of you any state in which you have put yourself. Struck the rock and produced the water. The word Moab means mother, father, which is your I am in your present state. Your Moab may be saying, I am beaten, I am sick, I am impoverished. But Nebo means to prophesy, your longing for the feeling of self. Pisgah means to behold. When you enter your desired state, behold your Jericho. For it will have a fragrant smell, for that is what the word Jericho means. Having risen in consciousness, remain in your chosen state until you have a reaction that satisfies you. A violent reaction produces a horrible smell, while a lovely reaction indicates Jericho and a lovely smell. You see, Jericho is not a place in the Near East, but a state that produces the thrill of achievement within you. In the 14th chapter of the book of John, Jesus speaks to Peter saying, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, for I go to prepare a place for you. And when I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also." This is not one man speaking to another, but oneself speaking to oneself. You are Jesus, imagination, telling yourself that there are innumerable states of consciousness you can enter, and you are inviting yourself to choose the state in which you wish to live. After selecting the state, the imagination will go and prepare it for you, so that you can come again as you must. For wherever you dwell in the imagination, there it will reside. Also in the flesh. If you believe what I have told you, determine to change your feeling of self. There is no power that can prevent you from realizing your dream, but you, and no man, can force you into any state. You have the power to select your state and enter it by doing so. Thus you live in or get out of a state, killing it. Thus, the decision and its consequences are yours and yours alone. The day you can become an observing self that observes your reactions and sees the observer and the observed as two distinct beings, you will know that you can enter a state and it will overcome itself. You will know that all the mansions of your Father's house are yours. I am consciousness contains all creation, and from I am comes imagination. Where there is no consciousness, there is no imagination. When you enter a state, your I am is having a psychological experience. When you think of a state, you have a subject and its object, but when you experience a state, you have unification. Tonight, think back on the day. Remember the people you saw this morning. If your reaction to them is the same as it was before, then your feelings haven't changed. Your relationships and friends are your guide. Use them. The commandment in the 1st chapter of Joshua says, "When you set out on the way, do not turn aside from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. For I, the Lord your God, am with you." Stay in the state you want until it fills your whole being, so you can reap its reward. I am your conscience, and I am the Lord your God. The truth teaching is about how you feel, because that's the only way change can happen. If you keep reacting the same way, it means you haven't changed how you feel. Your world will always match your inner assumption. Remind yourself of your goal 1,000 times a day and get rid of the ones you don't like. If you don't succeed, it's because you aren't following this truth and law. Ye are the temple of the living God, and the Spirit of God dwells in you. What does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? Come out of them and come, let us live. On the Mountaintop, chapter 16, the wine of eternity. Human imagination and divine imagination are one and the same thing. They are not two. Your human imagination has the power to turn your water of life into the wine of eternity. This you will do when you free your imagination from its bonds of limitation, for when the imagination is truly free, it can perform miracles. The Bible calls the imagination the Savior of man and identifies this wonderful benefactor as Christ. When Christ awakens and is born in you, your human imagination becomes a divine vision called Christ. Your individual imagination is the mediator between the Father of all life and the external world, called man. Having imagined wealth, It is the human imagination that walks upon the water of life and denies the evidence of its senses, affirming, "I am rich." Its persistence mediates God to man. All the characters of the Scriptures live in the mind. When you read the Bible, turn to yourself and ask, "What state would I be in if I were doing this?" When you read the story of Moses, affirm that you are him. Assume the state of faith. When you read about Abraham, you are Joseph, the dreamer, and Thomas, the skeptic. And you are meant to be Jesus Christ, the awakened and resurrected imagination. The skin is the outermost thing a man can wear. When you read about someone who wears camel's hair or fur, you are reading about someone whose mind is bound to the outside. His philosophy of life is external and totally dependent on others. In Mark chapter 5, the story is told of an innocent man who, being without clothes, lived among the dead and cut himself with the stones. When the waking imagination passed by, the innocent man cried out, "Do not cast me out." And when asked his name, he answered, "My name is Legion, for we are many." A being not yet individualized in a spiritual sense is innocent because he does not know what he is doing. He is Legion because he has in himself innumerable selves, i.e., I am sick, I am poor, I am tired, I am weak, and I am ill-treated, to name but a few, living among the dead and sleeping the sleep of death. His literal understanding of life and its cause are stones that cut and bruise. But the spiritual man has a self-determined personal history. A predetermined self in the realm of spirit becomes what he wants. When consciousness turns inward, the spirit awakens to its true identity. Then, discarding all belief in any external cause, it puts on its right mind and sits at the feet of the one who cast them out. A miracle is only the name given to it by those who have no faith in the works of faith. The story is told of a man named Jairus, whose daughter was thought dead. But the awakened imagination ignored the thought and said to him, "Fear not, only believe." Arriving at the house, he asked, "Why are you crying? The child is not dead, but asleep." Then she touched the child and said, "I tell you to get up." Immediately he got up and began to walk. Then Jesus turned to the parents and said to them, "Give him something to eat. Every state, every desire, every idea is your child. Looking on, desire seems to be dead to you, the natural man, but your spiritual self knows that desire is not dead, but asleep, waiting to be touched for its resurrection. Once your desire child has come to life within you through the power of touch, it must be nurtured for it to be born. This is done by directing your attention to it. Let us now turn to chapter 5 of the book of John, where it speaks of the pool of Bethesda and its 5 porches. The story is told of a sick man who waits for the movement of the water by an angel, believing that whoever first steps into the pool after the movement will be healed. After asking him if he wanted to be cured, the awakened imagination told him, "Get up, take your pallet, and walk." And instantly the man was healed, and taking his pallet, he walked away. The word Bethesda means house of mercy, and the pool spoken of here is the conscience that must be stirred by an angel, a messenger of God. Whatever idea you harbor is that angel disturbing your conscience. The pool is entered by mere assumption and stirred as you bathe in it. I am is always first person, present tense. No one can put you in the pool by assertion. Though seemingly powerless, you rest in the 5 porticos or senses when you accept their evidence and refuse to change your consciousness. No one needs to help you. Who could be the first in the pool other than yourself? That is yours. Knowing what you want, arise on the assumption that your desire is already satisfied, healed, and it will be so. In his 17th chapter, John exults, "I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. Father, glorify thou me with thyself, with that glory which I had with thee before the world was. In thy name have I kept those whom thou gavest me, and not one is lost, but the son of perdition. For their sakes I consecrate myself, that they also may be consecrated in truth. As hard as it is to accept, there is no one else. I worked on other people because I thought the world would be a better place if they were different. Then I woke up and realized I only needed to change myself. So start changing yourself today. Luke meant you when he said, "When their eyes were opened, they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight." When your self awakens, you will find what you have been searching for, and the belief in a power outside yourself will go away. In Francis Thompson's poem, The Hound of Heaven, he writes, "I fled from him through the nights and through the days, fled from him through the arches of the years and the labyrinthine paths. From my own mind, only to discover in the end that he was my own self. The eyes of man are blind. Though constantly hounded by the hound of heaven, he cannot believe in the non-historicity of the Bible. But he still clings to his little beliefs, even though he does not know what to do with them. People do not seek the truth, they only seek props for their opinions about it. But I say to you, do not think that I have come to bring peace on earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, for a man's enemies are those of his own household. When the truth comes, it puts man at war with himself, for he will find that he can no longer consent to what he once believed. Start now and listen quietly to the words you want to hear through a new direction inwardly. You can change the course of your life and free yourself from the prisons of your mind. You can see yourself better by looking into the face of another, but you cannot judge one who has not awakened from the dream of life, living in his physical animal world, reacting mechanically and automatically like a machine. Chapter 17. Awake, O sleeper, in the book of Ephesians we are told, "Awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light." This awakening and rising comes about through an inner development, for the Bible is your autobiography. It was you who inspired the prophets to record their visions, and it is you who will fulfill their prophecies in the first person, in the present tense. When you read the Bible, grit your teeth mentally, study its message, and your understanding will deepen as you go through life. The Bible teaches self-help. Don't look for any leaders on the outside. Just look at yourself by turning inward. If someone offers to do for you what you can do for yourself, reject their offer and turn to Christ, the creative power of God in you, who is your life, your light of the world. By changing your thinking, Christ will change your world. The soil of which the Scripture speaks is the mind of man. It is in this psychological soil that the idea of the kingdom of heaven was implanted, while in the dream state, false doctrines have crept in, called tares, grow with the wheat and will be harvested. Therefore, you must become selective and weed out the tares, killing all belief in a power outside the mind. The man who is rich and complacent, satisfied with his social and financial position, has no hunger to grow. If you are complacent, your life will not change, because you will not hunger and thirst for a higher level of consciousness. You and you alone know whether the hunger has come to you or not, but you have not begun the work you gave yourself to do until you begin to uncritically observe your thoughts. And when you do, you will discover that you are not as sincere, honest, or courageous as you thought you were. Tonight, pick a future you want to work on. Tomorrow, be careful. Ask yourself, am I holding the tension I want? Does my friend want me to see it this way? Am I putting myself down? Then act on your imagination, for imagination is passive while it sleeps, and allows that which is false to occupy the throne. Watch your thoughts, cradle your throne, and consciously allow your human imagination to rule your world. Your human imagination, once activated, will awaken like a little child, born in violence, in a manger where wild beasts eat. It will grow in wisdom and power, while the outside will become passive and impotent. But you must be attentive and watchful of your thoughts in order to bring the outside into passivity. Only then will you know what it is to be in the world, but not of it. The purpose of this teaching is to awaken the Christ who is asleep in man, dreaming different states in existence, and to bring him into the conscious circle of humanity, where man is conscious of himself. Once you are aware of your true self, you will no longer condemn the sleeping man. You will know that they are machines, automatons, who do not know what they are doing. Your desires are not intangible, subjective things, but solidly real. Begin to awaken the Christ in you, clothing your subjective desires with objective reality. I promise you that the day you do this, they will become facts in your world. Don't lie to yourself anymore. Work this characteristic within you. Become extremely observant and honest with yourself, and watch how the energy that was previously moving towards negative states flows towards your greater goal. Perhaps your goal is to become a great teacher, not because you want to impose your will on others, but because you want to awaken in others what you have awakened in yourself. Awakening begins when you feel a separation, a division between the natural self and the imaginative spiritual self, for which all things are possible. It is this spiritual you that clothes your subjective state with reality. By changing the feeling of self, you can direct your life and escape from the prison of your present state, whatever it may be. Thinking from the point of view that the problem is solved, you move from the problem to its solution. This change of attitude is called beatitude. In other words, you are being what you want to be by assuming that you already are. When you know what you want, clothe yourself in a new concept of yourself, extracting yourself from the evidence of the senses and placing it where you want to be. By this assumption or attitude of being, you will have traveled from one state to another, and I, if I elevate myself, draw all to me. Once you have risen to the new states, remain there. Do not return to the testimonies of your senses, but remain in your desire until a different world is established. Every change in the feeling of self automatically produces changes in the external world. Therefore, you must learn to die daily to your old beliefs. The statement, "Those who lose their life for me will find it," means to let go of all that you are now conscious of. If you lose the self, you will find that your self is redressed on a higher level of being, thus bringing about a new expression in your world. When you go in a new direction, the journey is made in the mind. A physical journey may follow, but the journey must first be made within. Where you are is what you psychologically are at that moment. An enlightened being lives on the mountaintop, and the human imagination, when fully controlled, is embodied as a being called Jesus Christ. As long as you are violent, you will be asleep. Awaken your spiritual self by observing your actions and reactions to life, and you will lose the urge to retaliate. What happens to you here is not important, but how you react to what happens. Your reactions define you. They tell you where you are because you attract life in its smallest details. The Bible does not teach reincarnation. Its central teaching is the rebirth of consciousness at higher and higher levels. You must be born by water and spirit, not just by water. Unless a man is born of the Spirit, he cannot enter the higher level of being called the kingdom of heaven. In this series of lectures you have received psychological instructions on how to work on yourself. Your mind has been washed of certain errors, baptized and born of water. But unless this truth is applied, you will not be born of the Spirit. The word Mary means water. Christ, the self in you, is born of water and the Holy Spirit. The outer self cannot receive instructions. It is literal and takes things literally, and so receives nothing but stone. The righteous, however, is conscious of being the man he wants to be, while the fool steals the form from himself by not claiming his desire. Whenever you see a man less than what he wants to be, you have robbed him of the state necessary to externalize it. Do not be like the heathen who, by vain repetitions, hopes to gain the ear of God. Rather, when you pray, enter within and shut the door, and your Father who hears in secret will reward you openly. You have but to change the feeling of self, close the door to the outside world, and feel yourself in the state your friend desires, with a planned program. See him and speak to him from the premise that he is already that person. Keep the door of reason and logic closed, and walk in faith that what you have heard and seen in secret will be rewarded openly, and it will. The Bible was written by the conscious circle of humanity. This circle, which you enter at the waking moment, is not composed of men. The Bible is divine instruction with unlimited interpretations. It is a test in the development of your understanding, and as you grow, your understanding deepens and deepens. Though man wraps himself in conditioned states, the being that he really is I am. Whatever man consents to, he will manifest in his world. You may accept as fact what your reason and senses deny, or you must always bow to the dictates of reason. The same consciousness that produces health produces sickness, wealth, or poverty. Whatever you accept to be conscious of, whatever you affirm to be true, will manifest. When you know the spiritual being in you, you will assert the supremacy of imagination and submit all things to it. All knees must bow before the imagination. Behold, we are transformed into the same image. You can contemplate a given situation and make it so natural that you are transformed into its image. You can, when all imagination you feel the naturalness of the image you contemplate. Divinity is not divided, therefore all are but a projection of the one. You are told to love your neighbor as yourself, for there is no other of your ideas, and you will not be growing. All textbooks are man-made and uninspired from above. Stick to them, and you will remain at their level. Believe in yourself, trust your human imagination, and you will grow in wisdom and stature. And as you grow, you will outgrow your former beliefs. Many great minds, including men of different religions and who knew ancient languages, worked on the Encyclopaedia Biblica for 12 years and published it in 1888. After a lot of research, these men came to the conclusion that the whole Bible was a mythological allegory. Another great book is Smith's Dictionary of the Bible, which came out in 1860 and has 4 volumes. They found that the Bible writers used a phallic framework to attach their psychological truths to, and when their eyes were opened, they knew. To know is to have union with something, so it disappeared from their sight. In John chapter 3 he says, "Look what kind of love the Father has bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God, which we are." The world doesn't know us because it doesn't know Him. We don't know what we will be as God's children yet. We will be like Him when He comes back, though, because we will see Him as He really is. Those who put their faith in Him become as pure as He is.